Well, welcome to Ridecast episode 3.
Redo.
2.0.
Redo.
Yeah, redo.
Yeah, 2 point, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, as I talked about for the bonus episode, is we had some mic issues, and we were at the North Trails for that episode, which I was really excited about, riding the North Trails. And unfortunately, we don't get to use really much of that footage. There may be a couple other like bonus episodes we could put out, and I'll take a look at that. But we're here in Ramba again, and we're here to redo episode 3.
Yep.
So quickly, again, we had somebody, one of the comments was that people wanted to know more about the bikes that we were riding. So Brandon, tell us what you're on.
I'm on the previous to the current version, Pivot Shuttle LT. So this one is 170, 160, 170, 160. Currently running the Shimano EP801 motor, size large. And
you've upgrades, we've talked about in the past a little bit during one of the other ridecasts, that you did upgrade the damper and the fork.
Yep, so the damper, this originally came as a ride build, so it came with performance suspension, Fox performance suspension. So I upgraded to the Grip X2 damper. And then my shock, it originally came with a Performance Float X, and I upgraded to the DHX2 coil.
Yeah, which actually originally came off of my
Firebird. Yeah, it came off your Firebird, and since the Shuttle LT is actually the electrified version of the Firebird, everything can work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, use the same shock, which was good. And we already had the coil for you too.
Yeah.
You also went to a mullet to kind of match what the current Shuttle LT is doing. I
did. So the only issue that I was so the LT is a bigger bike. It's made for big enduro more straight line runs. I like to ride in Ramba. So one thing I wanted to do was just try to tighten up the turning a little bit. Yeah. And one of the ways we could do that is by running a mullet. And this has a flip chip that allows you to do that. So I'm 27.5 in the back and 29 in the front. And I actually did one day of back-to-back testing on some of the techier trails here. And I really found that I jived better on this bike with the 27.5.
Yeah, so mixed wheel made a lot more sense for you. Also upgraded to Maven brakes that came off of your Trail Cat. They were a little bit overkill on that bike, but
perfect on this bike. Yeah, I didn't know what to think about the Mavens. Spencer and I had a lot of back and forth on them, because the pull on a Maven is a little stiff. But when you put it on this bike, you don't notice it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal. So
that's your bike in a nutshell, other than you changed the stem as well.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a bling thing to match your pedals. I'm on the Shuttle AM, which is their all-mountain version of the bike, of the e-bikes. I did upgrade to a Fox 38. Just felt like the 36 for the riding I was doing was a little flexy. It wasn't ever bad. I liked the weight of it, but the 38, I'm digging this a little bit more. Vittoria Mazza Race Enduro tires, which are armored on the sides and the top, so it helps from sidewall cuts and punctures. And the other thing is, this is the team edition, so it does come with the DT Swiss carbon hoops and the Bosch race motor, which I have found to be a lot of fun, but not necessary by any means. I think if I was to do it again, I wouldn't spend a lot extra just to get the race motor. It's nice to have in certain situations, but I honestly don't use the race thing that often, the race mode or setting. When I do, it is a blast. It's really a giggle.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's mine, Shuttle AM, with a couple upgrades, and I'm running 148 rear, 160 front. So we're going to get into the trails, and today we're talking about Revel, and they're alive again.
Yep.
Back to being a company, and we're going to talk about crank length, and we'll probably come up with a couple other things. But yeah, this because we've done the bonus episode that covered at least one of the subjects from prior. This one may end up be a little bit shorter.
I think we're going to talk about oval chain rings.
Oval chain rings, yeah.
And it's too bad Val's not here because she backed us up on some of this stuff.
She had some great input on
She
that.
did.
Yeah.
So we'll get her back on here. Maybe give her the mic the whole time.
Yeah.
Since she loved it so much.
She did a good job. Actually, it was funny because she's watched the video now and she's like, "Oh, I don't sound like a
She was great.
I'm like, "No, you did a great job."
Yeah.
All right, so let's roll in, and our first subject is going to be Revel Bikes and what's gone on there. So Revel made an announcement a while back that they were going to have to close their doors. We talked a little bit about what could cause that type of thing, and there was a private equity firm that got involved, which was part of the problem in our opinion.
Yep.
But since the original founder has purchased Revel back.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a pretty cool thing. Hello.
Hi. And I'll say, I did listen to an interview with the original founder. The reason he had sold it was just simply a cash flow issue at the time. It wasn't that he didn't believe or love in the company. He was actually there until like a few months before the private equity was looking to sell.
Yeah.
So he's been involved in the company.
Yeah. So with him buying it back, there's obviously some things that have to change to build it back stronger and better. We already knew they made great bikes, but some of the changes that are going on, one of them is they're going to a updated version of a direct-to-consumer, where to keep costs down on the bikes, they are going to sell them direct-to-consumer as complete, where dealers will have the frame only build options. So that means for us as a dealer, right now it sounds like we won't be able to order complete bikes.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a bummer, because it's nice to have them on the floor. Nice to have demos of them. But they did also say that they planned on having some demo program for shop employee stuff, so we can still get them. But for now, if we want to get a Revel for somebody, we're going to go frame only, and it's going to be selecting the components you want, which the really cool part of that is the fact that we get to really customize the bike for people. And I guess in our case, realistically, on the titanium side of things, we were mostly ordering titanium frame, not complete, right?
Yep.
So that's not really a big change for us on the titanium side of things. But overall, like, I think as a shop, we're really excited that Revel is back, that the original founder is back at the helm, and we're excited to see how things progress and how things change in the next coming year or two, to see what level we'll be able to participate in it again.
Yeah, I think that it's going to change in the future. I just think for now, for them to get their feet back under themselves I think they just are viewing this as the way for them to do it.
Yeah.
So, gotta respect that. But I think it is harder, you know, to generally people want to order that complete bike.
Right, and I mean, the good news for the customer is that's still an option, a very viable option.
Yep.
Where for us, we do enjoy the custom builds quite a bit anyway.
Yep.
Whee! So the trail I'm on right now is Old Broke Bike. It's probably my favorite trail in Ramba from like a descending standpoint. I love the technical challenges of it in the descent and in the climbs in between. And we've been able to see this on one of the other ride casts in the past. Almost took a bad line there. It's drying out a bit, which is good. Still a little greasy in that last bit. Crossing the new trail pretty quick here. There it is. Rad. Revel's.
Yep.
Revel's back. Good news. And we're excited to do some custom stuff with them. So our next topic is crank length. Crank length has become quite the topic in the last, what, really 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, I would say 3 years.
I mean, it's kind of been there as a topic for a little bit, but like, I feel like we're seeing a lot more changes to crank length now, within the last year or 2 years.
Yeah.
So typically in the past, we would see most bikes coming spec from a mountain bike standpoint with what, 175s?
175 on the large, extra larges. Yeah, mostly everything.
Well, I mean, actually, in years past, 175 was pretty common on medium and small.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it was the standard.
Yep. Which, you know, I would say wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but now with bike geometry progression, and we're seeing a lot more of that long top tube, slack head tube angle.
Yeah.
And then they couple that with a low bottom bracket.
Yep.
For stability.
Yep.
It starts to cause pedal strike issues, especially in terrain where we're riding.
Yes.
So there's starting to be a shift in crank length being spec'd on bikes due to that. And you're starting to see a lot more 170 cranks spec'd.
Yep. For sure in the medium and under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We feel that we could probably see a lot more speccing of 165 on some like large end down even. Because when we talk about a biometric advantage, there's a shorter crank versus a longer crank. There's not really a biometric advantage.
No.
There's fit issues, right?
Yep.
Where a lot of times a person with shorter legs will benefit from the shorter crank. And you've experimented with this a little bit more.
I have.
So,
yeah, I've been running 165 now for a few years. And the reason was because of pedal strikes. Reduced the number of pedal strikes I was getting. And it did help, but in all honesty, it was many of those pedal strikes were due probably to an improper suspension setup at the time.
yeah, which is fair. I mean, typically, if people are running too soft of a suspension, you're gonna get deeper into the pedal or into the suspension while pedaling, and
Yeah.
that'll cause the pedal strike stuff.
Yeah. So, but I was running 165s and I found them pretty comfortable. And when I would get onto bikes that had the longer cranks, 175 and even the 170s, I felt like I didn't feel, it felt odd to me, but also uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, there is definitely some fitment issues with longer versus shorter cranks, and some of the stuff that they talk about is having a shorter crank, your joints do less moving, so you have less chance of injury to things like knees, hips, and especially if you have knee and hip issues already, the shorter crank will really help. The other part of that is from like a road or gravel standpoint, if you're running a shorter crank, it allows you to get more aero and without having your knees like pumping up into your chest area when in an aero position. And like we've talked about, Brandon, a little bit how power, like watts,
Yep,
is an effect of a few different factors.
it is. Power, yes.
Yeah, so you have torque, you have velocity or speed. So while a longer crank allows for more torque at low speeds,
Yep,
going to a shorter crank does not necessarily mean less power
right.
development, less watts, because that shorter crank actually rotates faster.
Right.
So you're gaining velocity.
For many people, it could mean you produce more power more efficiently.
Yeah, you really can, like, your pedaling style can play a factor in that.
For sure. Pedaling style and even the bike you're riding.
Yep.
You know, we had discussed it. You don't mind running the longer crank on your single speed
Correct.
because you tend to be grinding it out on that bike more.
Yeah, so like the slow, like riding a technical climb on the single speed, having that longer crank does allow me to produce a little more torque.
Yep.
Where if I was like doing a gravel single speed, I would prefer a shorter crank for the increased cadence.
Yep.
So it can be bike specific and it can be riding style or pedaling style specific. Like, you kind of have two pedal types. You got mashers
Yep.
and spinners. So if you're a masher, you're probably still getting along with a longer crank a little bit better. But if you're getting pedal strikes, it's not a bad idea to consider going to a 5 mil shorter crank.
Yeah.
You won't notice a huge difference in the torque performance, but getting rid of pedal strikes is a huge deal.
Yeah, I think that 5 mils is a good balance.
Yeah. I mean, and pedal strikes for a flat, while they can be kind of annoying and jarring, it's not as big of an issue as a pedal strike with a Crank Brothers pedal like I run.
Yeah.
Because you pedal strike, it can actually cause you to unclip.
Yeah.
And so then you got a whole nother situation you're dealing with. So, with there being no biometric advantage, longer or shorter, typically these days we are starting to see people changing to shorter cranks.
Yep.
It's real common to see people running 170s and now switching to 165s.
Yep.
For your wife, Jamie.
Yep, we dropped her to 160.
Right, and that's on her Switchblade.
Yep. And a couple reasons for that. She is shorter, and had already been pretty comfortable running a 165 crank.
Right.
That Switchblade, they lengthened it out just a little bit, the new model.
Yeah.
So getting her into a 160 also effectively shortens the reach just a little bit for her, based on her stance when she's standing.
Yep.
So,
because your feet are closer together forward and aft.
Yes.
Not side to side Q factor.
Yes.
But forward and aft. And that also, you were saying, will help with stability?
Stability, yep. And you actually, yeah, that's downhill riders and have been moving towards shorter cranks. Also, like the e-bike company Crestline, they don't put a crank. They're a boutique e-bike brand.
Okay.
They don't put anything longer than 155 on any of their bikes.
Well,
they just, on an e-bike, they don't see the value in running longer cranks. They only see value in the shorter.
Well, and some of that has to do with the way e-bike power is developed. For most e-bike power systems, they prefer a higher cadence.
They do. They prefer higher cadence.
So with a shorter crank, it's easier to keep you in that higher cadence.
You'll actually use less battery power in a higher cadence because the motor doesn't have to work as hard.
Correct. So, like yours, your LT, that's one of the things we didn't talk about, but you did go to a much shorter crank on that.
I did. I went to 155.
So, with a 155 on the LT, because that's running the Shimano EP801, it really prefers a cadence-based power delivery.
It does. It doesn't grind real well low cadence.
Right.
It feels like the power cuts out. But if I can keep the cadence up on it, it definitely feels a lot better.
And with me running the Bosch system, that one is far less of a cadence-driven system where it will allow you to give it power and it'll help match that. So for my riding style, the Bosch works really, really well in this full power mode. And for that Shimano system, that 155 crank probably helps.
Yeah.
You did notice on one of the rides, I don't know if it was after installing that crank, less battery consumption.
Yep. Yep. Something I've noticed too is with the shorter cranks, because you're using less hip and knee flexion. I was getting some upper knee pain, and that has helped a lot with the shorter cranks as well.
Well, and that's something Val touched base on.
She did.
Was that when we switch her switchblade
Yep.
to the 165 cranks, she noticed way less pedal strikes, like almost eliminated.
Yep.
And the other big benefit for her was her knee pain got better.
Right.
It didn't totally go away
Nope.
until we changed her chainring.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Now, that's a segue into the next subject, which is oval chainrings.
Yep.
But we'll do a quick recap. Shorter cranks, basically, if you're 175, going to a 170 is probably going to be a benefit overall, and it might even be better to go to a 165. If you are shorter in the legs, like my daughter's boyfriend is 5'11".
Yep.
My daughter is 5'4".
Yep.
And they actually have the same saddle height.
Yeah.
So for Izzy, she can run a 170 crank because she rides a medium frame with a high saddle height still. Where her boyfriend Rex would probably benefit from running a 165
Yep. Yeah, because he has shorter legs. I think that it was like a good rule of thumb was if you take your inseam in centimeters or millimeters and you go by 20% of your inseam. It's kind of a loose rule.
Okay. To help
Or
figure
41% of the height of your tibia was the other.
Okay.
The other number. So those are loose rules though.
Yeah, it can come down to being able to try a bike with a shorter crank or a longer crank.
Yep.
But typically, I haven't seen anyone dislike
Shorter.
going to the shorter crank.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any negative physiological consequences of a shorter crank, honestly. I haven't read anything about that.
Right. Yeah, everything has been saying that there's a lower chance of injury
With
a shorter crank because
yeah.
I made the statement earlier when I was descending, so you probably didn't hear it.
Probably not.
But during that descent, I mentioned that with the joints moving less, there's a lower chance of injury.
Yes, for sure.
And that brings us to where Val talked about, and you talked about, the knee issue getting better or going away.
Yep.
Val's knee issue, again, didn't totally go away until, well, it's not that we changed her chainring to an oval. It's that somebody may have mounted her chainring on not exactly in the right position for the oval to do its job.
Yeah, like the opposite.
Well, I think that dummy moved, it was just rotated off a few degrees.
Yeah.
But, you know, once that dummy fixed it, which the dummy was me.
Of course.
Yeah, the dummy was me. Once I fixed that, her knee pain went away completely. So
Yeah.
the oval chainring and the cranks really helped.
Yep.
So that brings us to the discussion of oval chainrings. Yay or nay?
Yeah, I'm a yay.
And why are you a yay?
For me, so I was watching videos about them, you know, prior to moving to Michigan. So I've been running them since I first got my bike. And the reason was more efficient, easier climbing. That's what sold me on them. That's what all the people were saying about them.
Yeah, and where that really benefits in the terrain that we ride, because we have the steeper, more technical climbing, where you not just are going up a steeper climb, so you need the pedal to turn over easier, but we also have a fair amount of square hits like roots and rocks that kind of get in the way of turning your pedals over in some cases.
Yep.
So on bikes previously, I typically ran a 32 tooth round. When I started running oval, I switched to a 30 tooth oval. The reason I went down to two teeth was it gave me the same top end as a 32, so when I was pushing, when I put the power down, it still actually pushes like a 32 tooth. But the biggest advantage for me on running that 30 tooth oval is when my legs are at their weakest and I'm transferring, into the power position to push down, it rotates over like it's a 28 tooth.
Yeah.
So the steeper climbing and the technical climbing got a lot easier for me. Val, made the observation that she always says she's not a great climber, not a strong climber. And while from like maybe a cardio standpoint, she struggles a little bit more on the climbs, from a technical standpoint, she can climb really well.
Yeah.
And I don't think she gives herself enough credit in that.
Right.
But she noticed that her climbing got better with the oval chainring.
Yep.
Are there any bikes you don't run an oval on?
The only bike I don't currently run an oval on is my e-bike.
What about your gravel?
And my gravel, no. Don't run it on my gravel.
Nice push on that one, dude.
Yeah, that's that low cadence he had.
Yeah. Straight up the gut is actually more like a ramp than it looks like.
I could have had a little more momentum, it would have helped, but still got her done.
Yeah, you did. So yeah, I don't run one on e-bike. I don't run one on road or gravel.
Which again is funny because road and gravel is where they were originally studied and invented.
Yeah, but it's funny, they actually had a really poor oval design when that first came out.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I feel like it probably would give me a more even cadence.
Yeah.
And so I should really give it a go.
Yeah, some people say they'll feel like a wobble in their pedal with it. I don't feel that, do you?
Only at really high cadence.
Okay.
Would I say that I've felt that? So, I mean, if somebody's running a really high cadence, like, let's say 95 and up, maybe 100 and up.
Okay.
You may feel that.
Yeah.
But then as you get used to it, it'll feel odd to go back to a round.
Yeah.
But I have typically found at a lower cadence, I don't notice it as much.
Yeah.
Or at all. And it can depend on the ovals too.
Yep.
Because they are different designs.
Yep.
I feel like I would notice it more on, say, the wolf tooth, because it's a little more oval shaped.
Okay.
Than the absolute black. Both of them are really great ovals. I tend to run the absolute black more often than the wolf tooth, just from a personal feel. I like the way the absolute black feels underneath me a little bit better than the wolf tooth, but there's some cases where like the absolute black isn't made in that, and wolf tooth does such a great job like making a variety of those chain rings I have zero issue switching it up and riding the wolf tooth.
Yep.
But you do notice a slight difference between them.
Yeah. I think that Absolute Black, they're kind of the originators. They have a pretty wide range to fit most bikes and bike situations.
They do. I know they've put a lot of time and effort into figuring out what they feel is the best
Yeah.
oval shape,
Yeah.
and they've patented it.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the gist of it is we haven't had a single customer that switched to an oval want to go back to a round.
Yeah, even my wife. Like, she noticed it immediately, Jamie.
And Jamie's the one who says she won't notice things as easy.
She won't, but the oval she did. Swallowed a fly there, Spencer.
Well, that's good protein.
A little extra protein in my diet for the evening.
Yeah, it's going to aid in your recovery from this hard work that we're doing today.
Yeah. Hey, some of those climbs are still tough. Whiskey.
Yeah,
The audience is probably going to hear me breathing a little bit in there.
You got to be technically sound. Well, and even I had to pause my speech a little bit.
Yeah.
It was harder to just let the words flow.
Yeah, it's because you got to be. The bikes make things easy. Make certain things easier, but the technique still needs to be there.
Yeah, and I think even more so. I think it's
Yeah.
probably even more important, in my opinion, from a climbing standpoint, to get the technique right on an e-bike.
For sure.
Because we're so used to how easy they'll climb that we tend to sit up.
Yeah.
And if we sit up, we're taking weight off the front. I'm gonna make an observation real quick.
Yeah.
Anytime I have to go between two skinny trees,
Yeah.
I slow way down.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at that.
It's like me on a bridge.
Like, my kryptonite would be skinny trees.
Skinny
You
trees.
put me on a trail with a lot of skinny trees, and if it's a race, I'm losing.
You're probably still faster than me, so.
I don't know. But I digress.
Yes.
So we were chatting,
Ease on the mountain bikes.
yeah, and how it's more important to have your technique dialed, we feel,
Yeah.
on an e-bike while climbing. It's way more important to drop those elbows, get the chest over the bars, and scoot forward on the saddle. Power you're gonna have. Sometimes the added power will cause a reduction in traction, or it will want to lift the front end up more, and you'll loop out.
Yeah.
So it's way more important than to concentrate on your technique when on an e-bike,
Yep.
so you can make more climbs.
Don't you think that maybe some of it could be just the fact that you're a little faster on these bikes? So
Yeah.
your reaction time is.
Yeah, I think it does need to adjust because we're definitely not used to climbing that fast.
Right.
Woo!
That was a good one.
Yeah, I went kind of deep on that
Yeah,
one.
you
hey?
did. You started right from the top. I should have had the camera on for that.
Yeah, that was, that felt good. I think I need a little more air in the rear though, because
Huh.
I think I tested the Race Enduro Mazda
Yeah.
right there.
That was the infamous stairs that people are scared about up here, which once you learn how to ride them, a blast. They are a blast.
Well, typically, I think the right way to do it is to skip as many as possible, like I did on the second set.
Right.
You know,
Then you only
It
have
was-
to ride 2 of the stairs at the bottom.
yeah, it was way smoother.
Yeah.
In the interim.
For sure.
But yeah, and it's not, I guess it's not even just climbing technique that should really be adjusted on an e-bike. With there being more weight, I find that I have to be more aggressive with the e-bike to really move it around and
Yep.
make those corners I definitely have improved on bike position / body position while descending from riding my e-bike.
Yeah.
I move my analog bikes way better than I did in the past.
Yeah, I think it's maybe more intuitive on the analog bikes, where on the e-bikes there's just a little more input that needs to occur.
Yes.
And that's also can be based on size of person, you know. We don't have to go super deep, but Pivot did come out with a new e-bike this week called their Slam, SLAM, which is a light version of the bike that Spencer is riding.
Yeah, it basically replaced what was their Shuttle SL. They're super light, which to me, I would say that was a pretty super light bike. The demo we had was 40 pounds.
Yep.
And I could ride that with the power off on group rides and be just fine.
Yep, and the new one comes in at that same 40 pounds.
Right, but it's running a Bosch system.
Yep.
So it develops a little more usable power, but is also designed, like you were saying, for the lighter weight.
For the lighter weight rider.
Yep.
Yep, that's kind of why they brought it. It's not that a heavier rider can't ride it. It's not about that. It's just, if you're a little lighter rider, maybe shorter, that bike will come in an extra small. And having a 40-pound bike versus a 50-pound bike,
right,
is a way lower percentage of your weight, making it much easier for you to move that bike around.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference. Like, you know, myself being in the neighborhood of the 200-pound mark.
Yep.
I don't notice static weight. Uh-oh, my nose piece on my glasses is coming off.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to glue that.
Dang.
Anywho, me being around 200 pounds,
yep,
I don't notice the static weight of a bike near as much.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care if the bike is 2 or 3 pounds more.
Right.
Or in the e-bike side of things, 8 or 9 pounds more.
Yep.
But I know a few of our, you know, customers that have a, you know, of a shorter stature, vertically challenged, as it were.
For sure.
And lighter weight.
Yep.
They talk about how moving an e-bike around is not the easiest thing.
Yeah, it's not an enjoyable experience for them.
Yeah, they're way more timid on technical trails, or aren't willing to take them on technical trails.
Yeah.
They'll just like, well, no big deal, I'll ride my analog bike.
Yeah. But yeah, finally we're seeing some of these bikes coming to market, and you know, the lower power output shouldn't really be a fear for those people, because if you are of a shorter stature, smaller stature, less weight, you don't have to generate as much power.
Right.
To move.
That bike is working less.
Right.
Pulling them up the hill.
Yes.
Than pulling me up the hill.
Right. So with that maybe that lighter weight rider, that SL AM bike would probably last and work just as well as Spencer's AM does for him.
Well, even the previous SL with the Fazua.
Yeah, Fazua, yep.
Got 44 miles out of that bike.
Yeah.
Before the battery died.
Yeah, that's a ton.
With 2 miles to go. And because it was light enough and easy enough to pedal, that last 2 miles was no big deal.
It was no big deal, yeah.
And that was actually Val riding it.
Right.
She was like, oh yeah, the last 2 miles, no big deal.
Yep.
So that was cool. And the last 2 miles was uphill.
Right, right, right.
So the other cool thing about that lightweight e-bike, the redesigned SLAM or Slam.
Slam.
It's now in an extra small.
It does come, and it's mixed wheel in the extra small, and that was simply for back tire clearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Pivot does anything notably better than other brands, it's designing a proper extra small bike.
Yeah, or just, yeah.
Like, their extra smalls are really proper riding bikes. Not just dumbed down or shrunk down versions of the larger frame bikes. Like, they are legitimately engineered differently and ride that much better.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have Christy McBride on this.
Yeah, for sure.
At some point, and I mean, she could really speak to, like, the reason she's riding pivot for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got a rocky fat bike that she really likes, the Suzy Q. But really, for the most part, she's on
all pivots.
All pivot, and they're all extra small.
Yep.
Except for her Shuttle AM. And she's said, they're the only extra smalls that really fit me.
Right.
And she's right about 5 foot tall.
Yep.
Or as we like to joke, 4'12".
Yeah. Well, and it is important. It's one of the, you know, every bike company, they have their things, I'm sure, but it actually is important to Chris, the founder of Pivot, to have bikes to fit all sizes.
That where everybody gets the same ride experience.
Everybody gets the same ride experience. They don't. It's not just a size thing with them. It's a kinematic thing.
Yep.
Meaning they change how the suspension works on those smaller bikes.
Yep. And on the bigger ones.
Yep. And in the bigger one, all throughout the sizes. So you're not just getting
a stamped cookie cutter.
No.
Exploded version or
no
shrunken version.
It is, that bike is specifically tuned and dialed for its size and for the typical rider that will ride it.
Yep. So, pretty excited about getting on one of the SLAMs at some
September, thinking, right?
Yeah, that's when our demo's coming.
Yeah.
We might have to get one here before.
Yeah, we'll have to, or get one, maybe a customer can get one, and then we can get that customer on here and talk about it.
Yeah, or they'll be nice and let us ride.
Or, yeah.
If they're our size.
Yeah, if they're our size, yeah. If you're a size medium out there and you want to order a Slam, hit Spencer up.
Or even a size large.
Or a size large, either one is fine.
Yeah, Brandon and I can ride either, in most cases. So yeah. We're all about e-bikes, all about
all of the bikes.
Changing our technique, or improving, concentrating on our technique.
Yeah. I think with all of our bikes, right, we don't just have one bike because, I mean, we could, right? But
boring.
It would be boring. But we ride all of our bikes differently.
Yeah. They're for different purposes.
They are for different purposes.
As we've said before, you don't go golfing with one club.
You don't. Yep. I've done it. It's not very much fun. Same with bikes.
If I had to, it might be a 7-iron.
Yeah. And honestly, that was the club I picked.
It's funny.
We are on the same page. We should do a golf cast maybe one day. Spencer and I go golfing and do a podcast.
Oh, that would be great. People would see me being really bad at something.
I was never good at golfing. That's probably why. Well, I don't know. I'm not great at biking either, but
it could be really fun though to see me throw a golf club. I think Brandon got caught up on that one. That's a bit of a challenge right there.
I missed the line on that one.
I did too. But luckily, well, I didn't have my seat down. Normally I put my seat down before I go up.
Yeah.
Because you crest so quick.
Yeah.
I was like getting bucked off the saddle while standing up.
Yeah, I should have stayed a little more left than I did.
That's one of those, I didn't use proper technique on my e-bike.
I feel like that's one where if I'd have just went with that more consistent cadence, instead of where you're just thinking about just blowing up the hill,
Yeah.
I would have been fine.
It is kind of there are some funky lines up there though, so if you do take kind of the wrong one,
Yeah,
it makes it a challenge.
yeah,
But that's what's fun
yep,
about riding these trails, is though we end up riding a bunch of the same trails frequently, there's a bunch of really fun different little lines that you can take.
there are.
Like through rock gardens or rooty climbs or rooty descents or...
Well, and again, leaning back into having different bikes, those different bikes will often determine the line we take.
Yes. Yeah, if I'm on my single speed, I sure as heck am not taking the chunkiest line up like
Right.
I do on the Firebird or the Switchblade or the e-bike.
Right.
And then I would say on my Element, I kind of take a mix of the lines. Some of them will take the same line I would on the Bird, and some of them I take the same line I would on the single speed.
Yep. Or just different speeds.
Yep. Yeah, bikes are fun. Well, let's touch base real quick on some safety gear.
Oh yeah.
So if you're just getting into riding and you're wondering, hey, what do I need to have versus what can I get later? The safety stuff, what I would say, number one need, I bet you Brandon and I are going to be in agreement on this.
Yep.
We'll say it in 3, 2, 1, helmets. There it is. So
It's a
that
must.
is a safety requirement.
Yep. It is a must.
Yes. Some of the other requirements, depending on the riding style, if you're doing bike park days, I would say full face helmet required,
Yeah.
and some type of body protection, whether it's just knee and elbow pads. I would say with a lot of the bike parks out there, those should be a requirement as well.
Yep.
And then I'm all for chest protection and possibly even neck protection, depending on how rowdy you're getting.
Yeah.
Right, if you're riding a lot of the greens,
And the blues, and
Blues,
they're
you're
not
probably-
super rocky.
yeah, you're probably less likely to really need that. But if you're doing bigger jump lines or drops or really aggressive, chunky technical trails, I would say that protection, you crash at speed and land with your back on a rock, having some spine protection, probably going to be a good idea.
Yep.
Then we get into other stuff like where do you sit on gloves?
Gloves, I would say gloves. So there's two that I think that are I wouldn't say required, because I think truly the helmet is, but gloves I would put in that next level down.
Strongly recommended.
Strongly recommended, and the reason I do that is because as your hands perspire, it changes the feel of your grips and your ability to grip your bike.
Yep.
That's the first reason. And the second reason truly is if you fall, you're going to put your hands out. And nobody wants hands that are all abraded and nasty when you got to take care of things or...
Right.
So that's the reason.
Yeah. Can you imagine like your hands being all ripped up and then having to swing a hammer while they're scabbing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's
So
just
yeah,
not
I'm with you on the gloves. That's strongly recommend.
Strongly recommend.
What's
And
the
they're
other
not
one?
expensive. Like what?
Oh, it's true.
What can you get a set of gloves? I mean, theoretically you could go anywhere and buy a pair of gloves, but
I mean, you can get pretty darn good ones for somewhere in the neighborhood between $20 and $30.
yeah. And like, you don't need 4 pair. Like, these super light Tascos that I run they're like 80 to 90% of my rides.
Yeah.
It's got to be pretty cold for me to get a thicker glove. So.
Right.
So 1 pair of gloves, you know, 20 bucks, 30, you know, 20 bucks. Not bad.
Not bad. What's the other one that you're like one step away? Eyewear.
Eyewear.
Ooh. You know, I wasn't even thinking that.
Oh.
But here I have eyewear.
Yeah, me too.
Why is eyewear so important?
Eyewear to protect those eyeballs as you're linking up those turns in those trees, branches. You don't want the branches hitting your eyes.
I don't want mud in my eyes.
Mud in your eyes.
So, a guy who, you know, I had a brain surgery.
Yep.
I had a nerve that had a tumor on it. Luckily, it was benign.
Yep.
But it affected the right side of my face as far as movement goes.
Yep.
So, after having that tumor removed, that nerve took forever to grow back, and I still can't blink my eyes very well.
Yeah.
My left one I can blink and close just fine. The right legs, it's slower. Sometimes doesn't close all the way.
And it's like a moisture thing too, huh? A little bit.
Can be. Not so bad.
Okay.
But the biggest thing on that is if I'm riding without glasses and something comes at my eye, like mud or a bug or a stick,
yep.
I literally watch it hit my eye.
And you cannot close it.
I can't close it in time. So, yeah, for me, eyewear is pretty important.
That one's pretty, but again, I think for, like, I can't tell you how many times when I'm riding, something's hitting me in the face. You know, it's, so, yeah, I would say eyewear. If you wear prescription glasses, you can get like a prescription safety glass. That's what I ride with most of the time.
Yep.
Other option would be contacts and then just regular goggles. You want to try to stick with some kind of eyewear that has some certified protection, I think, because you don't want it breaking. You know, I see a lot of people with standard sunglasses, and sometimes I get a little worried about that, because if those break and then something that gets cut in your eye, like now the plastic lens is a problem, you know?
Right. Yeah, so at the shop we sell Tifosi, and that's a good riding glass.
Yep.
And then where the price point for Tifosi stops is where our 100% line picks up. So we have good riding glasses for not a lot of money. And I'm riding Tifosis right now, and I've had these now, I would say, 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And I'm just starting to get to the point where it's time to replace them.
Yeah. Like I said, I mostly ride with just my prescription safety glasses, but I also have a set of Tifosis that have the color changing lenses that I can use with contacts.
And there's a number of those glasses that you can get inserts for prescription lenses.
Yep. Yep.
So
that, I would say very high.
All right, so I kind of feel like for the stuff that if you're just getting started, the really important stuff, helmets, gloves, glasses.
I'm thinking the next one down we might have in our minds too, but you go ahead.
Well, I think I just said it.
Oh, what'd you say?
Shoes.
Oh yeah, yep, it was. It was.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously if you're riding like a clipless pedal, where it's a Crank Brothers or a SPD or a Time or whatever, you're obviously going to need shoes to house the cleats. But a lot of people don't realize how important a proper flat shoe is when riding a flat shoe or a flat pedal.
Yep.
You ride some pretty aggressive flat pedals.
Yep.
They got some pretty mean pins in there that can damage shins, calves.
And just the soles of tennis shoes.
And just the soles of tennis shoes. If you're using an expensive running shoe on a good flat pedal, it is going to rip
gone.
Those up.
Yep. The pedals that I have now on this bike, legit, if I wore them once with a pair of sneakers, like regular, they'd be done.
Right. So yeah, in that case, for sure, shoes.
And shoes, again, I mean, they run the gamut. You can get a pair of shoes for not super expensive.
Right.
It's not, and these are shoes, like on the flats, I wear my shoes all the time.
Yeah.
They're comfortable. It's usually, and I ride a lot.
Yep.
And I will use about one pair of shoes for sure a year.
Okay.
So, and I ride like every day.
Yep.
So.
And there's a number of really good flat shoes out there. The ones we use in the shop
Crank
or
Brothers.
recommend the most, yep, Crank Brothers, and then some 510 stuff. So
yeah. There's
are all really
benefits to both. I actually been riding both. I'm working them out in my brain. There's actually benefits to both of those brands. So
Yep.
if you have questions, go do some research. But yeah.
Or call the shop.
Or call the shop. Come
Or
in
stop
and talk
in
to
the
us.
shop if you're local.
Yeah, come and talk to us, because I'm a flat guy, so I ride both pairs of shoes, and I like them both for different reasons. So
Yes. Okay, so last subject.
yeah,
Talk about new rider. What accessories should they get? Bottle cage,
bottle cage.
water bottle.
Yeah, actually, a bottle cage to me isn't. If I prefer a hip pack personally, but with a
Sure.
bladder.
Sure.
But yeah, if you want to carry a bottle, for sure, yeah, it's cheap. Bottle cage, what again? Those nice Lesign cages. What,
20 bucks.
Yeah.
Yep, and they'll last you forever.
Yep. Good pair of pedals.
Good pair of pedals.
Like you can buy a pair of stamped flat pedals for 50, 60 bucks.
Somewhere in there, yep.
Yeah, and they'll last you a lifetime.
Yep. Then, multi-tool. It
Yeah,
is a great
multi-tool.
idea to have a multi-tool. It is a great idea to carry a pump and a tube.
Yep.
And if you're running tubeless, I would get a plug kit as well.
Yep. Yeah, and there's lots of different ways to carry that stuff on your bike. Pivot makes a really cool, some really cool systems for mounting tools to your bikes.
Yep, they mount in the same where water bottle cages might mount, and a lot of bikes have more than one set of those.
Yep.
Whether it's for bottles or tools.
Right. So there's options there. You can also get straps
Yeah,
to strap
like a volley
that stuff to your
strap.
frame.
You can do top tube bags, under seat bags, frame
Yep.
bags. I carry a lot of my stuff in my hip pack
Yep.
along with my water.
Yep, I'm the same way.
So then other accessories. I mean, I think that's if you're just getting started,
For the just getting started, that's
be able
really,
to carry a multi-tool,
yeah,
a quick link for your chain,
quick link.
a tube, and you're probably going to be pretty good with that stuff.
Yep.
The other thing to carry with you, if you're a new rider, would be a buddy.
Yeah, we just found
So
one.
if you find a buddy on the trail and you don't have a multi-tool,
Yep.
hopefully your buddy has one.
I do.
See?
And a shock pump
And
and,
a-
a tire pump.
See?
And I have candy.
And see, candy, there is an accessory we didn't touch
Yeah,
on.
we did it.
Candy.
Important.
You need it. Yeah.
Actually, I have candy too. Nerd clusters.
So this is our good buddy Tommy.
Hello.
He's riding what do we call it?
The best $300 bike ever?
The raddest $300 bike ever. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you guys heading to?
We're just filming episode 3, finishing it up. Ridecast. You're going to be in it now.
Are you guys heading towards Agani by chance?
We're not. Why? What's up?
Well, that's where I'm going.
Oh.
I'll follow you for a little bit, though.
We're kind of on our e-bikes.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to lead. You guys will run me over.
Yeah.
No, trail etiquette wouldn't allow us to run you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just finishing up. We're just talking about the things if you're a new biker, what are, the good accessories to get to start out with. Tommy's got he's got the frame pack.
Yep.
He's got
Top
his
tube.
water bottle cage, his water bottle.
And the Osprey, which is, I don't remember what model it is, but it's awesome.
Yep, you got plenty of water. You can carry your other tools and things and snacks and candy.
And the Stuff It pouch. I think that's what it's called, right? This thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And it's got the little, mine's all stretched out. For the adapter for the helmet too.
yeah.
It's really nice, especially if you're like going out of town. You can just throw everything, including your helmet, on the bag. Toss it in the truck.
Ready to rock.
Good to go. And then you just gotta put your helmet on, and then you're ready to rock.
Yeah,
I know suggest keeping the water in there though, because it gets really warm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Water's gross.
Yeah.
Put ice cubes in that.
yeah. Did you know actually warm water will hydrate you faster because your body has to warm up cold water to be able to use it?
Somebody told me that because when I used to work at a factory, it was like 120 to 130 a lot,
Yeah.
and I would always slam cold water, and it would make my stomach upset. And they said that's because your body's trying to
It's got to heat it up. Yeah.
doesn't like it.
No. Drinking cold water though will actually help you lose weight because it you got to burn calories to
Are
heat
you
it
calling me fat too?
up. No, I'm just giving you.
I was like, I know the jersey's tight, man, but chill out.
Oh, funny.
Speaking of which, I saw a couple of these jerseys out last night. Are those new?
No.
we've
I
had
just
them for a
haven't
bit.
noticed them. Hey,
Oh yeah.
They're in the
They're
shop.
up in the shop.
I like those a lot.
Thanks.
I like that you can see the rider like way through the woods
Yep.
when you're coming up. Like one of the girls and another group had one on last night. I couldn't see any of the other riders, but I could see her like way
That's
up.
the jersey.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we got some topo on the bottom, some
Yep.
axes on the sleeves. The topo works really well for me. It shows off the higher points of my stomach.
Yeah.
Yes, it's perfect. I like it though. What's on the other sleeve? Oh, another axe.
Yeah,
Yep.
axes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for giving us some visuals on, things
Lucy?
that new people, if you're getting into biking, things that are important to have. There
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's stuff we talked about.
Also, everyone's on a budget, right?
Yep.
Don't buy the cheapest stuff possible because you're gonna replace it. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
I know all too well.
It makes a difference.
It really does.
Yeah.
But I suppose I will let you guys ride your monster trucks through here, and then
Right on,
I'll
bud.
follow on my tricycle.
To see you and your raddest $300 bike out
see
there.
how fast. See how long you can keep up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what a perfect person to run into on here. 'Cause
Yeah, Ramble Local there.
Yeah. Tommy's a great friend of the shop and just a great person all around.
Yeah. He's
So-
out here pretty much every night.
Yep. So that pretty much wraps up the accessories thing. So, yeah, I think that's kind of our episode, isn't it?
I think so. Can't think of too
So
much
just a
more.
Quick recap. Revel's back in business. We're excited. Crank length. Probably not going to be disappointed going smaller. We would suggest somewhere in the neighborhood of the 165 range for a wide variety of people. Oval
Yeah.
chain rings, big thumbs up. And we've covered required safety gear and some other things. So,
Yeah, and obviously if anybody has questions, come into the shop, call the shop, you know, if you're listening to this from somewhere outside of Michigan or upper Michigan, the trails we have are the Ramba trails that we mostly ride are pretty rough, rowdy trails. So if you ride stuff like that and you're trying to figure some things out, hit us up.
Yeah, come on over and visit the shop, visit the trails. And if you're not sure where you're going, give us a holler and we'll be happy to guide you along.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, as always, that guy back there is Brandon. Can you see him? That's Brandon.
Yeah.
I'm Spencer. And thanks for watching the Ridecast. So we just put our buddy Tommy on my e-bike. His first experience ever. Here he comes.
That is so fun! That's amazing!
First time on an e-bike.
It's awesome! It's so awesome! Like, but once you stop pedaling, it shuts it down. Like,
yeah.
you can control it very well. And the harder, it's not what I thought it was. It only puts in as much as you give.
Yeah.
If you're just slowly pedaling, it just woo. But once you hammer down, it's like a turbo.
Yeah.
Woo!
So
Yes.
since you're just going straight, let's send you off in the race mode. That's 400% assist. And when you stop pedaling, it will push you for another full second. But if you're going straight, no big deal. You'll control it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's hilarious. Anytime you put people on an e-bike for the first time,
Yeah.
it's like funny.
It's funny. Well, and I mean, Tommy's very animated.
Yeah.
His nickname is Excited Tommy.
Excited Tommy.
Yeah, because he's excited about things.
Yeah.
And I love how he is.
Oh, he's flying. Turn it down. It gets to be too much power.
That race mode is a whole different animal.
Yeah. Scary.
I had to turn it down, I think, because that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a lot. And I really wasn't pedaling that hard, but like, it's like right now power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a Bosch. That thing is freaking rad. Is yours pretty much the same but prettier?
Well, I don't know if it's prettier. It's a different motor.
Dude, I love the blue. It's so cool looking.
Prettier.
It's prettier. It matches his socks. Well, it doesn't match his socks, but can I just lay this down?
Yeah.